The question did not sound loud, yet it struck the silent boardroom like thunder rolling across glass. At the head of a long, gleaming table stood Evelyn Carter, the powerful CEO whose name alone could shift markets. Her tailored suit was flawless, her posture commanding, her expression usually carved from stone. Executives feared disappointing her. Investors admired her precision. Employees whispered about her discipline. But now, her composure trembled. Across from her stood a little girl, clutching a worn-out backpack to her chest, as if it were armor. The child's dark eyes shimmered with confusion. Beside her stood a single father in a neatly pressed but inexpensive shirt, his work-worn hands protective around his daughter's shoulders. Evelyn's voice, though controlled, carried something fragile beneath it. "Why?" she asked slowly, her sharp eyes locked onto the man. "Does your daughter look exactly like me?" The room inhaled as one. No one moved. No one dared. Daniel Harper had never imagined standing in a skyscraper like this. The marble floors reflected the overhead lights like a polished mirror. The faint scent of expensive perfume lingered in the air. The city skyline stretched beyond towering windows, glittering with ambition. He felt out of place in every visible way. Daniel was a warehouse worker who pulled double shifts. His hands were calloused, his shoulders permanently tight from lifting crates. Exhaustion lived in his bones, but dignity lived in his spine. Life had pressed hard against him, yet it had not bent him into bitterness. Beside him stood Lily, 7 years old, observant, gentle. Her fingers tightened around his hand. Daniel squeezed back. 7 years ago, on a storm-heavy night that smelled of rain and grief, Daniel's life had split into before and after. Back then, he drove a taxi part-time to pay mounting hospital bills from his late wife's medical care. She had died during childbirth years earlier. The loss had hollowed him in ways he never fully explained to anyone. That night, after dropping off a passenger near an upscale district, he heard something faint from the back seat, a sound too soft to be traffic, too fragile to ignore. He turned. In the rear seat lay a newborn baby wrapped in a pale pink blanket. She was crying, but weakly, as if even her voice feared being heard. Daniel's heart slammed into his ribs. There was no note, no bag, no name, only a tiny silver bracelet resting loosely around her wrist. Engraved on it was a single letter, E. He reported it immediately. Police searched. Reports were filed. Hospitals were notified. Days passed. No frantic mother came forward. No desperate relative. No explanation. The baby remained unnamed in hospital records, a silent question. Daniel visited daily. He told himself it was responsibility, that anyone would check on an abandoned child. But when he held her, something inside him shifted. His arms, empty for so long after losing his wife and child, no longer felt useless. The small warmth in his hands felt like oxygen returned to lungs that had forgotten how to breathe. Weeks turned into a legal declaration. Abandoned, Daniel made the boldest decision of his life. He adopted her. He named her Lily, after the flowers his wife once loved to grow by their apartment window. From that moment on, every sacrifice had meaning. Raising Lily alone was not easy. Money stretched thin as paper. Daniel often skipped meals so Lily could have fruit in her lunchbox. During winters, he layered her in the thickest blanket while pretending he preferred the cold. He learned how to braid her hair from late-night videos, fumbling at first, then improving. He attended every school recital, even when it cost him overtime pay. He never once treated her as someone else's child. She was his daughter. Yet as Lily grew, so did questions Daniel quietly feared. She looked nothing like him. Her features were refined, almost aristocratic. Her posture carried a natural grace that did not match their modest apartment. Teachers often assumed she came from wealth. Daniel would smile politely and change the subject. Then came the citywide art competition, sponsored personally by Evelyn Carter, CEO of one of the region's largest corporations. The prize, a scholarship. Lily loved to draw. Her artwork often depicted warm homes under golden skies, fathers holding daughters' hands, light breaking through dark clouds. Daniel encouraged her to enter. He had no idea the decision would lead them here. The corporate headquarters towered above them the day of the exhibition. Inside, children's paintings lined the walls of the grand hall. When Evelyn entered the room, conversations hushed automatically. She was 35, brilliant, relentless. After losing her parents years earlier, she had rebuilt her family's struggling company into a thriving empire. Her discipline was legendary. So was her emotional distance. She trusted data more than people, until she stopped in front of Lily's painting. The artwork showed a small girl standing between two worlds, one shadowed in gray, the other bathed in soft golden light. She held hands with a tall, protective figure rendered in warm tones. At the bottom, written in uneven handwriting, "Love makes us family." Evelyn felt something inside her chest tighten painfully. She turned, and she saw Lily. It was like staring into a reflection from 7 years ago. The same almond-shaped eyes, the same small birthmark near the collarbone, the same crease in the brow when concentrating. The world narrowed. Her throat went dry, and then she asked the question that froze the room. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He felt Lily's fingers press into his palm. He had always known this day might arrive. At home, tucked safely in a drawer, was the silver bracelet engraved with the letter E. He had kept it not as evidence, but as acknowledgement that Lily's story began before him. He drew a slow breath, and he told the truth. He spoke of the taxi, the storm, the abandoned newborn, the bracelet. With every word, the CEO's carefully constructed composure fractured. 7 years earlier, Evelyn had made a decision she relived every night. Young, overwhelmed, pressured by someone she trusted, someone who convinced her that a pregnancy would destroy her career, stay in her family's company, unravel everything she had built. The child's father had vanished when things became complicated. Alone and terrified, she allowed her newborn daughter be taken away temporarily. So she was told, until the situation stabilized. But betrayal followed. The baby disappeared. Searches led nowhere. Scandal loomed. So Evelyn did what she did best. She buried her pain beneath ambition. She worked longer hours, closed bigger deals, built higher walls around her heart. But grief does not disappear. It waits. Now it stood before her in the form of a 7-year-old girl holding a worn backpack. Tears filled her eyes, an expression no employee had ever witnessed. Daniel finished speaking. He expected confrontation, lawyers, demands. Instead, Evelyn looked at him with something astonishing. Gratitude. He told her gently that he had always known Lily might have another beginning. He never erased that possibility. He raised her with love, not possession. Lily deserves the truth, he said quietly, but she also deserves stability. She's not a headline. She's not an inheritance. She's a child. The room remained utterly still. In that moment, the most powerful woman in the building realized that the poorest man in it possessed something she'd been searching for all her life: unconditional courage. Weeks later, private meetings replaced boardroom tension. DNA tests confirmed what their hearts already knew. Evelyn Carter was Lily's biological mother. But what could have become a legal battle became something else entirely. A bridge. The first time Evelyn visited Daniel's apartment, she hesitated outside the door. The hallway smelled faintly of detergent and old paint. Nothing like the polished corridors of her corporate tower. Her heels felt too sharp for the worn linoleum floor inside. Daniel welcomed her without ceremony. The apartment was small but orderly. Children's drawings decorated the refrigerator. A stack of second-hand storybooks rested neatly on a short shelf. Laundry was folded carefully on a chair. Nothing extravagant. Everything intentional. Evelyn watched as Lily burst through the door after school later that afternoon, dropping her backpack and running straight into Daniel's arms. The trust between them was effortless. Unquestioned, Evelyn felt both ache and awe. She did not try to replace him. Instead, she asked something far simpler. May I be part of her life? Daniel studied her carefully. He saw no arrogance, no strategy, only remorse and hope. He set boundaries, not from pride but protection. Lily would not be uprooted overnight. She would not be presented to the media as a reclaimed heir. She would grow surrounded by honesty, The transition was slow. Lily was confused at first. The word mother felt unfamiliar on her tongue. She clung to Daniel when conversations became overwhelming. Evelyn never rushed her. She attended school, placed quietly in the back row. She learned to braid Lily's hair, fumbling just as Daniel once had. She listened more than she spoke. Trust grew in small increments. Something unexpected unfolded. Daniel and Evelyn, two people from opposite ends of society, began learning from one another. There was no romance, no dramatic transformation, only responsibility and redemption. Evelyn publicly shared her past months later, not as scandal, but as truth. She spoke about fear, manipulation, and regret. She acknowledged her mistake openly. The public expected weakness. Instead, they saw humanity. She established a foundation in Lily's name to support single parents struggling to survive. Scholarships, child care assistance, legal guidance for adoption cases. Not charity. Restoration. Daniel continued working at the warehouse, but he also enrolled in night classes funded through the foundation. Not as a gift, but as a partnership. He studied business management, something he once dreamed of before grief redirected his life. Years passed. Lily grew. She became confident, thoughtful, strong in ways shaped by both struggle and opportunity. One evening, she stood on a stage again, older now, poised beneath bright lights. She spoke clearly into microphone. Family, she said, isn't about money or blood alone. It's about who stays, who chooses you, who loves you when it's hard. In the audience sat Daniel and Evelyn, side by side, not rivals, allies. Daniel's eyes shone with quiet pride. Evelyn's hands trembled slightly as she applauded. The question once asked in a silent boardroom had changed everything, not because it exposed a secret, but because it opened a door to forgiveness, to healing, to a future none of them had imagined. Sometimes life separates us through fear. Sometimes it humbles us through struggle. But when kindness meets courage, even the deepest regrets can bloom into something beautiful. And that is how a single father's honest reply rewrote 3 destinies, forever.